The number one objection I hear from people about not wanting to invest in real estate is because they don't want to get tenant calls at 2 a.m. about a leaking toilet. I've been doing this for 4 years and that has never happened to me, as well as I only work roughly 1 to 3 hours every single month managing my rental properties. What's up? My name's Avery. I'm a big fan of investing in real estate. I own 5 properties or 11 units, mostly long-term rentals and a short-term rental, but I am going to be talking today about how you can automate management and make it very easy for you. So in this video, I'm going to go over 4 ways to make it so you don't get tenant calls at 2 a.m. or you're not really stressed, and try to make this a much more passive than active activity. People talk about real estate and many other types of income as being 100% passive. I will not say this is 100% passive. There is work you have to do, there are things that you have to do, but there are many ways that I'm going to talk about in the video that can make it far more passive for you, so you're not always worried about tenant calls, things breaking, or issues, or people trashing your property. In this video, I'm going to go over 5 ways that you could automate your rental property management so that it's not such a burden for you and it actually is something you want to continue doing so you can build more and more wealth. But before I do that, I'd really appreciate it if you'd scroll down and make that thumbs up button blue. The first thing that you need to have is some type of lock and key system that allows vendors and other people to get into your house without you physically being there. Now this could come really in 2 different forms. Either you could have a lockbox with a code and a key, or you could have a smart lock that you could change the code from on your phone. And it really depends on the type of property and how many times someone is going to come in or out. With my short-term rentals, definitely want to do a smart lock because I can change the code, allow guests to come in. But for my long-term rentals, I actually prefer the lockbox and key because with those smart locks, you actually have to change the batteries every 3 months, which can kind of be a burden, especially to just pay someone to go out there and change a couple batteries for your long-term rental when there aren't that many people coming in and out of the door anyway. Now this one's heavily important because if you just need the handyman to come through or someone to check out the basement, like to do some HVAC servicing or whatever routine maintenance things that you're doing and they just need to get inside and you don't want to coordinate or rely with tenants, if you can just give them the lockbox and key or the smart lock code, they can get in and then they can get out and you never have to be there in the first place. Number 2, and this plays off of the first one, is to have trusted vendors and handymen that you work with that you feel comfortable allowing them into your home while you're not there. So this one won't happen overnight, but there are many ways that you can find good people that could help you run your business so it's a lot more automated for you. One of my really good friends is my handyman in the Boston area, so I just found that through networking and relationship building. But some other things that you could do is go on Facebook groups for real estate investors. So if you just type in the area you're in, let's say you're in Boston, and you look up Boston real estate investing, you will most likely find a Facebook group with a bunch of other real estate investors in the area. And you could find a list of electricians, plumbers, handymen, or other type of contract services where people could help you out. And because you're getting a recommendation from people who also invest in real estate, you can feel pretty comfortable that it's going to be a pretty good referral. The third one, and I think this is the most important and where a lot of new landlords or people who've never done this before or people who don't like technology really screw up, is just the flow of money with rent collection and paying your mortgage. This is a 100% automated process for me, and this is not an ad, but I use apartments.com. It's a great property management software. It's actually fine, but it's great because it's free and it allows your tenants to set up automatic payments. So with those automatic payments, I do not have to request them to pay me from Venmo, PayPal, or I physically have to drive there and pick up checks, which wouldn't work very well because a majority of my properties are 1,000 miles away. So it'd be kind of hard to drive there every single first of the month and actually collect money. And you also don't have to wait for your tenants to physically put a check in the mail and then get it sent to you. Because often if someone puts a check in the mail, they might have forgotten about it, drawn too much money from their account, and then by the time you actually cash that check, the money isn't there. And now it's many days into the month and you're about to pay your mortgage. And because of this, you physically don't have the money, you have to come up with it, and it can be a huge annoying process. So online rent collection is highly important. It's also really convenient for your tenants because they just have auto pay, they don't have to think about it, and they also don't have to run around trying to get you a check either. And the other reason why it's very important is because it can make it very easy for you to actually pay your mortgage without thinking about it. So the way it works is I have my apartments.com account and I have different bank accounts for each property that I have. So I might have 3 units of one property and 2 in the other, and they're associated with their own bank account. And every automatic rent payment, let's say from the 3 family I have, goes to one bank account. And then that one bank account is associated with the one mortgage for the property and the one mortgage servicing company. So I get that money automated into my bank account. It will take roughly 5 business days after they've actually paid, and I have my mortgage set up to automatically pay on the 10th of the month. With mortgages, you have actually to the 15th of the month before you start hitting any late fees, so I find the 10th to be a pretty good day from time it takes to get money on the 1st, with any holidays, weekends, and usually enough time for those business days to elapse for me to actually be able to pay on the 10th. And this is the other great thing, because I can set up auto pay for my mortgage servicing company, so I don't actually have to physically go in and pay for the mortgage. So from the time that the tenant actually pays the rent, that's automatically deducted from their account without them thinking about it, and then it goes to my bank account, and then my mortgage servicing company automatically deducts money from that account without me thinking about it, so it's a 100% automated process. This one was definitely the most important. If you feel like you want to be more hands-on and go to the property all the time yourself, you could do that, but I would say it would be a waste of time. But if nothing that you take from this video in terms of automating this business, definitely make sure you do all of the flow of money online and automated. The fourth thing that you could do to make this a lot easier is when you acquire the property, fix any of the issues right away so that you aren't just continually trying to duct tape stuff back together and getting a bunch of maintenance calls. So if there are some things that are issues, you want to just get rid of them right away so that you don't get these calls late at night. Like if someone's hot water tank is a month from dying, you might as well just fix it right then and there so you don't get the call later on, and you can have it scheduled at a good time rather than the tenant not having hot water for a few days, which is definitely one good example, but there are many other examples that you could take care of in order for it to be not a big issue later on. Now obviously there are many things that you can fix and there are new issues that are going to arise, but this will at least check a lot of them off of the list so you don't have to think about them anymore. And while you're fixing these issues, make sure you fix them properly. I've definitely done some things where I've fixed them on the cheap and it has bitten me in the ass, and then you end up paying more over time. So if you're fixing things and fixing them right at the beginning, make sure you do it properly so it stays like that for a long time and you don't have to think about it again. The fifth and final one, and also highly important, is having good tenants as well as a high quality product to attract those good tenants. By high quality product, I don't just mean the building actually looking good, but you want to be in a good area that people actually like. You don't need to be in an A-class neighborhood, but if you're in a D-class neighborhood and a D-class building, it's just going to be a nightmare. You're probably going to have evictions, so you want to be in a pretty solid neighborhood. I'm personally a big fan of the B range of property, maybe B-, and then making it look like a B+ or A- property. I think this can attract a lot of good people and is also helpful if there are any downturns, because you're not the high end of the market where people are paying for luxury, and you're not the low end, and you're still in a pretty good, very affordable town where there's going to be a lot of demand for your rental, and you're not going to have any worries about finding a high quality tenant pool. So if you have a nice looking place with really solid demand, you're going to have a bunch of renters to choose from. Every single time I list one of my apartments for rent, I have hundreds of people looking at them or wanting to move into them. So I've had a lot of opportunity to screen and background check many tenants so that I have the opportunity to put good people into my properties. And that really has been the case. I've had very few, if little, issues whatsoever. Only one tenant that I inherited was kind of annoying and they moved out anyway. And that really wasn't a big deal. They were still fine. But other than that, every single person that I have actually screened myself has been fantastic. And speaking of actually screening and doing a background check on those tenants, another reason why I like apartments.com is because you can do a background and credit check right there. It will pull their credit, you can see their credit score, as well as you can see any background checks if they've ever been evicted, and you can just make sure you do a diligent screening process so that you get those good people in. And one thing I noticed a lot of people do not do in the screening process is actually call the references that the tenants list on the application. Now to me this is a very simple thing. Just call the landlord they currently have or the one even before that and ask them if they were paying their rent on time. Call their employer that they have listed, call a friend they have listed, and just see how they talk about them as a person. Typically for me, this is a 30-second to 1-minute conversation I have with these people on the phone, and they just say the things that I most likely was going to hear by just looking at their application. Usually say, yeah, they're great people, I've never had any issues, and that's almost always been the case. But at least something that you should check off, because often people don't check that, and they might not call the landlord to a go and say, oh yeah, they never paid rent, because the person who's their landlord now might just say, yeah, they're great, because they want to get rid of them. These are really the major things of how I keep this a much more passive than an active process. I'd say I spend roughly 1 to 3 hours every single month managing the properties, and this mainly comes from accounting and paying things like a water bill, because a lot of city websites don't allow you to do automated payments. But if you have utility bills and you can do automated payments, definitely add that into the flow of money being more automated. So if you guys think there are any other tips or things that I missed here, definitely put them in the comments below. I'd love to hear how I could make this even more of a passive process, or the things that you have done to make that so. I'd also appreciate it if you haven't done so already, hit that like button, and you can also tap the notification bell or subscribe so you can learn more about investing in real estate and how to build your wealth easily like most millionaires do. And if you like me here, don't forget to check me out on TikTok and Instagram, where I make a lot of similar content but in short form. So thanks again for watching, and more wealth is coming your way.